About 6,000 years ago in southern Mesopotamia, roughly 20 city-states emerged between two unpredictable rivers, facing floods, scorching heat reaching 120 degrees Kelvin, and constant warfare. Life was brutal and unforgiving, but for these determined Sumerians, survival somehow continued in the shadow of heat, thirst, and enemies at the gates. Here's what life was really like in ancient Sumer. Hey, quick thing before we start. If you actually listen to these regularly, hit like or subscribe. I always wonder where everyone's at, so comment your city and what time it is. Weird to think some of you are having breakfast in London while I'm recording this at night here in the States. Alright, let's head back to around 3000 BC. Trust me, it's going to be quite a ride. But first, get comfortable. Seriously, adjust those pillows, pull up that blanket, because where we're going, you're going to want to be cozy, your eyes open. It's still dark. Mostly. There's a thin line of grey light seeping through the gaps in the reed walls. Dawn's coming. Not that you need to see it to know. The heat's already building. Even at this hour, the air feels thick, heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. You're lying on a mat woven from reeds. Just reeds. That's it. No mattress, no padding, just dried plants arranged in a grid pattern that's left their imprint on your back. Every ridge, every knot, you can trace the pattern with your fingers without looking. You've been feeling it pressed into your skin for hours. The mat sits directly on the packed earth floor of your mud brick house. The floor's cool, or it was when you first lay down. By now your body heat's warmed the spot beneath you. In a few hours, when the sun's really up, this same floor will bake. The whole house will turn into an oven. Temperatures outside will climb past 110, sometimes 120, sometimes higher. But right now, in this brief window before dawn, it's almost bearable. Almost. Your throat's dry, really dry. That scratchy, sticky feeling where your tongue wants to peel away from the roof of your mouth. When did you last drink? Yesterday afternoon? The water ration from the communal well? Yeah, that was it. Water's complicated in Sumer. You're surrounded by it. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers are right there, but you can't just drink from them. Not directly. The water needs to be carried, stored, sometimes boiled. The priests say the gods live in the water. The reality is simpler and grosser. Animals drink from those rivers. People wash in them. Bodies sometimes float downstream from the cities upriver. So you ration. You wait. You drink when the water's been properly collected and settled. Your stomach's doing that thing where it's not quite empty, but definitely not full either. Call it a 3 out of 10 on the hunger scale. Manageable. Normal even. Yesterday you had barley porridge for breakfast. Basically barley grains boiled in water until they turned into mush. For the midday meal, a flatbread. One. And onions. Lots of onions. Dinner was more barley, this time as a cake, with some beans mashed into it. Onions feature heavily in the Sumerian diet, like really heavily. If the smell doesn't hit you first thing in the morning, you're either sick or you've gone nose blind to it, which, let's be honest, you probably have. After a few years of onions with every meal, your nose just gives up trying to register it. Outside, you can hear the city waking up. Footsteps, voices, the scrape of tools against stone. Someone's already at the communal oven, baking the first batch of bread. You can smell it, that warm, yeasty scent cutting through the onion smell. It makes your stomach clench. Welcome to the land between two rivers. Welcome to Sumer, the world's first civilization. And yeah, you probably don't want to be here. Look, I know I said get comfortable in your bed, right? Well, that's because where you are right now, in this ancient Sumerian house, comfortable is not in the vocabulary. The Sumerian word for mattress doesn't exist. They've got words for reed mat, for leather sheet, for wool blanket, if you're rich. But mattress, the fluffy, cushioned thing you're lying on right now while listening to this? Nope. Not a thing. Your house is basically a box made of mud bricks, dried mud to be specific. The walls are about a foot thick, which helps with the heat during the day and the surprising cold at night. The roof? More mud brick, supported by wooden beams if you're lucky enough to have timber, or just more packed mud if you're not. There's a central courtyard. That's the heart of the house. It's open to the sky, which means light and air can come in, but it also means dust, heat, and during the brief rainy season, water. Everything in the house is built around that courtyard. Your sleeping room, the storage room, the kitchen area, they all open onto it. Most of the walls don't have windows, not real ones. Maybe some small openings near the ceiling to let hot air escape, but nothing you'd recognise as a window. Windows are a liability. They let in heat, dust, and more importantly, they let in people you don't want in your house. Thieves, animals, the occasional very determined rat. So it's dark in here. Even with dawn coming, it's dark. You sit up, slowly. Your back makes a series of small popping sounds as your spine realigns itself after a night on the reed mat. There's a specific ache between your shoulder blades that never really goes away. It's just there, part of life. Everyone has it. Even the rich people sleeping on their wooden bed frames with woven reed platforms and woolen padding have some version of it, though they'd never admit it. The air smells like dust and smoke and, yes, onions. There's also the underlying scent of the mud bricks themselves, that earthy clay smell that permeates everything. It's in your hair, your clothes, your skin. You could wash every day and it would still be there. Not that you wash every day. Water's too precious for that. In the corner, there's a clay jar, water, your emergency supply. You're supposed to use it sparingly, but right now, with your throat feeling like sun-baked clay itself, sparingly seems negotiable. You reach for it. The clay is cool against your palms. You lift it, tilt it, and let a small amount of water pour into your mouth. Not enough to satisfy, just enough to coat your throat, to give your mouth something to work with. The water tastes like the jar, like minerals and clay and faintly metallic. Better than nothing, way better than nothing. You set the jar down and stand. Your joints protest. Your feet find the packed earth floor, still cool, and you take a moment to just exist, to breathe, to prepare yourself for what's coming. Because here's the thing about being a Sumerian in 3000 BC. Every single day is about survival. Not dramatic, movie-style survival with dinosaurs and explosions, just the grinding, relentless work of staying alive, finding water, finding food, avoiding disease, avoiding injury, avoiding the wrath of gods who seem perpetually angry about something. And today, like every day, starts with work. The sun's not even up yet, and you've got to get moving, because in Sumer, if you're not working, you're not eating, and if you're not eating, well, let's not think about that. You pull on your clothes. If you're a man, it's a knee-length skirt made from wool or linen. If you're a woman, it's a longer dress, also wool or linen. Both are basically rectangles of fabric wrapped around your body and held in place with a belt or pin. No zippers, no buttons, just cloth and determination. The fabric's scratchy, rough. It's been washed in the river and beaten against rocks and dried in the sun so many times that it's more texture than textile, but it's what you have. It keeps the sun off your skin during the day and provides a thin layer of warmth during the surprisingly cold nights. You step out into the courtyard. The sky's lighter now, that pre-dawn grey that's not quite day but definitely not night anymore. The stars are fading. Above you the sky's huge, endless, without any light pollution, without any buildings taller than 2 stories. The sky in ancient Sumer is vast in a way that's hard to describe. It's like someone removed the ceiling of the world. Other people are emerging from their sleeping rooms. Your family, if you have one. Maybe your parents, your siblings, your spouse, your kids. Sumerian households are multi-generational. Everyone lives together. Everyone works together. Privacy is a concept that won't be invented for another few thousand years. Someone's already started a fire in the courtyard's cooking area. Smoke rises in a thin column. The fire's small. Fuel is precious, but it's enough to heat water for barley porridge. Again, because that's breakfast. That's always breakfast. Unless you're wealthy. Then you might have honey to sweeten it, maybe dates, maybe cheese. But wealth is relative in Sumer. Even the wealthy eat barley. They just eat it with more stuff mixed in. You head toward the fire, but before you get there, you hear it. The sound that dominates Sumerian life. The gong. It's coming from the center of the city, from the area near the ziggurat, that massive stepped pyramid that you can see from anywhere in the city. The temple tower. The house of the gods. The gong is the signal, the call to work. And in Sumer, work means the irrigation canals. Oh boy. Let me explain something about Sumerian cities. They exist because of one thing: water management. That's it. That's the whole civilization in a nutshell. Take away the canals, the dikes, the reservoirs, and Sumer disappears. The cities crumble. Everyone dies or moves away. It's that simple. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers flood every year. Unlike the Nile in Egypt, which floods predictably and gently, these rivers flood violently and randomly. One year, no flood. The next year, massive flooding that destroys everything. The rivers also change course sometimes, just deciding to flow in a completely different direction and leaving former cities stranded in the desert. So Sumerians built canals, lots of them, a network of waterways that crisscross the landscape, bringing water from the rivers to the fields, to the city, to the storage reservoirs. It's an engineering marvel. It's also a maintenance nightmare. Every single day, people need to work on the canals, clearing silt, reinforcing banks, checking for leaks, building new sections. It's back-breaking, relentless labour that never, ever ends. If you slack off, if you take a day off, the system starts to fail. And if the system fails, everyone dies. Not theoretically, actually dies. No water means no crops. No crops means no food. No food means starvation. So when the gong sounds, you go. You grab a tool, maybe a wooden shovel, maybe a basket for carrying dirt, maybe a hoe for breaking up dried mud, and you head toward the city gates. Other people are doing the same. Hundreds of people, maybe thousands, depending on the size of your city. The streets of Sumer are narrow, maybe 6 feet wide. They're not paved, they're just packed earth, dusty in the dry season, muddy in the brief wet season. The houses press in on both sides, their mud brick walls creating a maze of passages that all eventually lead to the main thoroughfares. You pass a shrine. There's one on almost every corner, just a small alcove in a wall with a clay figurine of a god or goddess. Someone's already left an offering there, a piece of bread, a small cup of beer. The gods are always hungry, always thirsty. They need to be fed constantly or they get angry. And when gods get angry, bad things happen. Disease, floods, drought, war, all of it is because the gods are displeased. So you make offerings, you pray, you perform rituals, you do everything the priests tell you to do, and sometimes it works, sometimes the gods are appeased and life continues, sometimes it doesn't work, and people die. That's just how it is. You reach the city gate. It's massive. Thick wooden doors reinforced with bronze bands. They're open now, letting workers stream out toward the fields and canals. Guards stand on either side, armed with spears and copper axes. They're there to protect the city from raiders, from rival cities, from anyone who might want to steal Sumer's most valuable resources: grain, livestock, and people. Slavery exists in Sumer. It's common. When one city conquers another, the losers become slaves. They're brought back to work the fields, build the buildings, serve in the households of the wealthy. It's brutal. It's also just how things are done. You pass through the gate. The landscape beyond the city walls is a grid of irrigation canals and fields, green crops, barley, wheat, flax, growing in neat rows, date palms providing shade and fruit, vegetable gardens full of onions, garlic, leeks, cucumbers, lettuce, all of it made possible by water drawn from the rivers through the canal system. And there they are. The canals, wide channels cut through the earth, some filled with flowing water, others partially dry and needing maintenance. This is where you'll spend your morning. This is where everyone spends their mornings. The overseer is already there, the guy in charge of organising the work crews. He's shouting instructions, pointing at different sections of canal, assigning people to different tasks. He reports to the NC, the political and religious leader of the city. The NC reports to the gods. Everyone reports to someone. That's the hierarchy. That's civilization. You're assigned to a crew working on a section of canal that's been filling up with silt. The water's flowing, but slowly, too slowly. If it gets any slower, the fields beyond won't get enough water. The crops will suffer. People will go hungry, so you dig. The sun's up now, fully up. The heat's building fast. Within an hour, it's already uncomfortable. Within 2 hours, it's genuinely brutal. The sun beats down on your back, on your head, on every exposed bit of skin. You're sweating. Everyone's sweating. The air shimmers with heat. You scoop silt from the canal bottom, load it into a basket, carry it to the embankment, dump it, return for more. Scoop, load, carry, dump, return. Again and again. The silt's heavy, wet. It clings to your shovel, your hands, your feet. Your back aches, your shoulders scream. Your hands develop blisters on top of the calluses you already have. This is life in Sumer. This is civilization. The world's first cities, built on the backs of thousands of people doing this exact same work, day after day, year after year, generation after generation. Around you, other people are doing the same thing. Men, women, even older children. Everyone works, everyone contributes. There's no concept of retirement or weekends or vacation time. You work until you physically can't anymore, and then you either have family to take care of you or you die. Fun times. The overseer walks along the embankment, watching, making sure everyone's working at the right pace, making sure no one's slacking. Sometimes he shouts encouragement, sometimes he shouts threats. The line between motivation and intimidation is thin in Sumer. Someone starts singing. A work song. It's rhythmic, meant to keep everyone moving in sync, meant to make the work slightly less unbearable. Others join in. The melody's simple, repetitive. The lyrics are about the gods, about water, about the harvest, about hoping this year is better than last year. Hoping is big in Sumer. You keep digging, the sun keeps climbing, the heat keeps building, your water ration ran out an hour ago, your throat's dry again, your lips are cracking, the sweat's evaporating as fast as your body produces it, leaving salt crystals on your skin. Not like your comfy bed right now, right? Not like your climate-controlled room with the glass of water on your nightstand. Not like your full stomach and your soft pillow and your complete lack of need to dig a canal before breakfast. You're welcome for the perspective. By the time the morning work shift ends, signalled by another gong from the city, you've moved several tons of silt. Your entire body hurts. You're dehydrated, exhausted, and covered head to toe in mud, but the canal's flowing better. The water's reaching the fields. The crops will survive another day, and so will you. You trudge back to the city with the rest of the workers. The sun's at its peak now. The heat's peaked too. It's easily over 110 degrees, maybe 115, maybe 120. In this climate, in this time before weather stations and thermometers, you measure heat by how it feels. And right now, it feels like walking into an oven. The city walls loom ahead. Even in their shadow, it's hot. The mud bricks absorb heat during the day and radiate it back out. The whole city bakes. The streets shimmer with heat waves. Dogs lie in whatever shade they can find, panting. Even the rats move slowly. You make your way through the maze of streets back to your house. The smell of cooking fires mingles with the ever-present scent of onions, smoke, and humanity. Thousands of people living in close proximity. No sewage system beyond what you carry out to dump in designated areas. No running water beyond what you carry in. No garbage collection beyond what you handle yourself. The smells are intense, genuinely intense. If someone from the modern world were dropped into ancient Sumer, the smell would probably be the first thing that hit them. Not the heat, not the sight of the ziggurat, but the smell. Human waste, animal waste, rotting food, smoke, sweat, and, yes, onions. Lots and lots of onions. You reach your house. The courtyard feels like an oven. The air's thick and still. You head to the storage area where the communal water jug is kept. There's a ladle. You're allowed one ladle of water. You take it. It's warm from sitting in the heat, but it's wet. That's all that matters. The water hits your stomach and your body just absorbs it, gone in seconds. You want more. You're allowed more. You take another ladle. This time you force yourself to drink it slowly, to let it actually satisfy your thirst rather than just disappearing into the void of dehydration. Someone's preparing the midday meal. More barley, this time as flatbread. The dough's been mixed with water and salt, maybe a bit of fat if there's any available, and then slapped onto the side of the hot clay oven to bake. It comes out crispy and slightly charred. You eat it with onions, obviously. There's also beer. Yes, beer. The Sumerians invented beer. It's not like modern beer, no hops, so it's sweet rather than bitter, thick, almost porridge-like because they don't filter it. You drink it through a straw from a large ceramic jar to avoid the chunks. It's nutritious, filling and mildly alcoholic. It's also safer than water because the brewing process kills bacteria. So yeah, beer for lunch, beer for dinner. Beer most of the time. The goddess Ninkasi, whose name literally means lady who fills the mouth, is one of the more popular deities. She's the goddess of beer and brewing. People pray to her regularly, make offerings to her. Beer is serious business in Sumer. You sit in the shade of the courtyard, eat your bread, drink your beer through a reed straw, and try to cool down. It's not really working. The shade helps a bit, but the air's still oven hot. Your clothes are soaked with sweat, your skin's sticky with salt and dust. This is the midday rest period. Work in the canals has stopped because it's simply too hot. The wealthy retreat to the inner rooms of their larger houses. The priests perform their rituals inside the cool stone of the ziggurat. Everyone else just tries to survive the heat. Some people sleep. Others do light work, repairing tools, weaving baskets, mending clothes. Children play quiet games in the shade. Life slows down, waiting for the worst of the heat to pass. You lean back against the mud brick wall of your house, the bricks hot against your back, but somehow being still, being in shade, being fed and hydrated, relatively speaking, makes it bearable. Your eyes close, the sounds of the city fade into background noise. For a moment, just a moment, you're not thinking about survival, about canals, about gods, about tomorrow's work. You're just existing, and honestly, in ancient Sumer, that's about as good as it gets. The rest period ends when the heat drops from hell on earth to merely oppressive. You get up, time for afternoon work, different from the morning canal labour, but work nonetheless, because again, if you're not working, you're not eating. That's just math. Today, you're assigned to the temple complex. Yeah, the ziggurat. That massive stepped pyramid dominating the city skyline. You can see it from literally anywhere. It's designed that way. The whole point is to be impossible to miss. Let me paint you a picture of what this thing looks like. Imagine a wedding cake. Now make it huge, like football field huge at the base. Stack smaller and smaller platforms on top of each other, maybe 5 or 6 levels total. Cover the whole thing in mud brick. Paint some levels white, some black, some red. Put a temple at the very top, painted blue to look like the sky. Add stairs running up the sides. Now place it in the dead centre of the city so everyone has to look at it every single day. That's a ziggurat. The one in your city rises about 150 feet into the air. The base covers maybe 3 acres. It took decades to build, thousands of workers, millions of mud bricks. It's basically a mountain that humans decided to just make, because the gods lived on mountains far away. And if you can't go to the mountain, you build your own mountain and hope the gods appreciate the effort. Spoiler alert, the gods always need more convincing. You approach the base of the ziggurat. There's a huge courtyard surrounding it, easily the size of 10 modern city blocks. This is where city life happens. Markets, gatherings, public announcements, religious festivals, executions, normal civic stuff. Right now, the courtyard's busy. There's an artist painting a mural on one of the temple's outer walls. A kid races past, probably late for school. Yes, school. The Sumerians invented formal education. Lucky them. A woman's milking a goat near one of the smaller shrines. Someone's weaving a basket from reeds. Life continues in the shadow of the god's house. But here's where it gets interesting. The ziggurat isn't just a religious building, it's the centre of everything. Economics, politics, law, healthcare, education. The priests who run the temple complex basically run the entire city. They control the grain stores, they organise the irrigation work, they settle disputes, they diagnose illnesses, they keep records of everything, and I mean everything. The Sumerians are obsessed with writing stuff down. They invented writing specifically to keep track of temple accounts. Who donated what grain? Who owes temple taxes? Who got how much beer ration? It's all recorded on clay tablets in cuneiform script. Thousands and thousands of tablets. Some of these ancient accountants were tracking every single sheep, every bag of barley, every jar of oil. It's basically ancient middle management, but with more gods and fewer staplers. The priests are everywhere in the courtyard. You can spot them by their clothes, fancier than yours. Cleaner, definitely cleaner, made from better fabric. They wear these distinctive fringed garments, kind of like shawls. Some have their heads shaved, some have elaborate hairstyles. All of them have this air of authority, because they speak for the gods. And the gods? They're not exactly chill. Okay, let's talk about the Sumerian pantheon. Strap in, because this is wild. The Sumerians have over 3,000 gods and goddesses. 3,000. There are gods for everything. God of the sky, god of water, god of air, goddess of love, goddess of war. Sometimes these are the same goddess because apparently love and war go together. God of beer, goddess of grain, god of that specific canal over there, goddess of this particular tree. It's excessive. The big ones, the major league gods, are An, Enlil, Enki, and Inanna. An is the sky god, top of the hierarchy, though he doesn't do much these days. Think of him as the retired CEO who still has his name on the building. Enlil is the real power, god of air and storms. He's based in Nippur, which is like the religious capital of Sumer. When Enlil gets angry, bad things happen. Floods, droughts, locusts, your crops dying, your city getting destroyed, fun guy at parties. Enki is the water god. He's actually pretty cool, relatively speaking. God of wisdom and magic. He's the one who warned that one guy about the great flood and told him to build a boat. Sound familiar? Yeah, that story predates the Noah version by about 1,000 years. The Sumerians did it first. Inanna is the goddess of love, sex, fertility, and war, because nothing says romance like a good battle. She's based in Uruk and is basically the most dramatic deity in the pantheon. The myths about her are wild. She goes to the underworld, gets killed, comes back to life, sends her husband to hell as a substitute. It's a whole thing. Then there are the lesser gods. Hundreds of them. Each city has its own patron deity. Each household has its own protective spirits. You're supposed to pray to all of them, make offerings to all of them, keep all of them happy all of the time, which is, let's be honest, exhausting and impossible. But you try anyway, because the alternative is divine punishment, and that's not theoretical. When bad things happen, and bad things happen constantly, it's because you or someone in your city angered a god. Drought, you didn't sacrifice enough sheep. Flood, someone committed a sin, and the gods are collectively punishing everyone. Disease, the gods sent demons to afflict you. Everything is the gods' fault, or rather, everything is your fault for not pleasing the gods properly. It's a system that keeps the priests very, very powerful. You reach your assigned work area near the base of the ziggurat. Your job today is helping to transport offerings from the courtyard up to the temple at the top. People bring offerings all day, every day. Food, drink, woven cloth, tools, sometimes animals. All of it goes to the gods, which really means it goes to the priests, who consume it on behalf of the gods, because, you know, the gods can't actually eat solid food. Convenient. The stairs up the ziggurat are steep, really steep. Each platform has its own staircase connecting to the next level. You're carrying a large basket of bread. Someone behind you is carrying a jar of beer. Someone else has a live chicken, which is not happy about being carried up a giant pyramid in a 110-degree heat. Can't say I blame the chicken. Each level of the ziggurat serves a different function. The lower levels have storage rooms, administrative offices, and smaller shrines. The middle levels have priests' quarters and ritual preparation areas. The top level, the one you're climbing toward, has the main temple. Only the high priest or priestess gets to go into that top temple. Everyone else stops at the platform just below. That's where you'll leave the offerings, where the priests will collect them, perform the necessary rituals, and then take them inside to feed the gods. You reach the top platform. The view is stunning. From up here you can see the entire city spread out below, the grid of streets, the houses packed together, the city walls forming a protective circle. Beyond the walls, the green fields and the network of irrigation canals cutting through the brown landscape. Beyond that, the rivers winding their way south toward the Persian Gulf. You can also see other cities in the distance, just smudges on the horizon, but they're there. Other Sumerian city-states, Kish to the north, Uruk to the south, Lagash to the east, all of them built on the same model. Ziggurat in the centre, city around it, farmland beyond, canals everywhere, all of them competing for the same resources, the same water, the same land, the same trade routes, all of them sometimes at war with each other, but we'll get to that later. You set down the basket of bread in the designated area and head back down, up and down, up and down. Each trip you're carrying something different. Dates, figs, barley grain, oil, wine, if someone wealthy donated it. The temple accumulates massive quantities of stuff. They have to. They employ hundreds of people. Priests, administrators, scribes, craftsmen, servants, guards. All of them need to be fed. The temple is essentially a corporation, a very powerful, very wealthy corporation that also happens to commune with divine entities. On one of your trips down, you pass a group of student scribes sitting in the shade of the second platform. They're practicing their cuneiform on clay tablets. A teacher walks among them, correcting their work, occasionally smacking someone on the back of the head when they mess up. Sumerian education is not gentle. These kids, all boys from elite families, spend years learning to read and write. They memorize thousands of cuneiform signs. They practice writing on cheap clay tablets that can be smoothed over and reused. They learn mathematics, astronomy, religious texts, legal codes. It's brutal. There's this ancient text, basically a student's complaint letter, where he lists all the times he got beaten in a single day, for being late, for talking in class, for getting his writing wrong, for his handwriting being messy. The kid then asks his father to invite the headmaster over for dinner, gives the teacher gifts, and suddenly his writing is praised, and he's told he'll be a great scribe one day. First recorded case of apple polishing in human history. The teacher's walking past and he glances at you. Not in a friendly way, more like the way you'd glance at a piece of furniture. You're not in his social class, you're labour, he's educated elite. The distance between you and him is enormous. Sumer has a clear social hierarchy. At the top, the Ensi and his family. The Ensi is the political and religious leader. His name literally means the one who divides the temple land, because all land belongs to the gods, and the Ensi manages it on their behalf. Just below the Ensi are the priests. They're the educated class. They can read and write. They understand astronomy and mathematics. They know the rituals. They interpret omens. They're also the doctors, by the way. When you get sick, you go to a priest. He'll diagnose you by examining your symptoms, maybe by reading signs from animal entrails, and then prescribe either herbal remedies or magical incantations, or both, usually both. Below the priests are the merchants and craftsmen, people with specialised skills, potters, metal workers, weavers, jewellers. They're not wealthy, but they're comfortable. They own their workshops. They can afford decent houses. Then there are the farmers and labourers. That's you. That's most people. You work the land, maintain the canals, build the buildings, do the physical labour that keeps the city running. You get paid in rations, beer, bread, barley, sometimes dates or fish, just enough to survive. At the bottom are the slaves, people captured in war, criminals, or people who sold themselves into slavery to pay off debts. They have no rights. They're property. They work the worst jobs for no pay beyond basic food and shelter. And everyone, every single person in this hierarchy is terrified of the gods. You finish your transport work as the afternoon starts cooling. Well, cooling. It's still over 100 degrees, but at least it's not 120. Progress. The evening prayer ceremony is starting. A gong sounds from the top of the ziggurat. People start gathering in the courtyard. This happens every evening. A public ritual where the high priest offers the day's final sacrifices to the gods, prays for the city's prosperity, and updates everyone on any important news. You join the crowd, hundreds of people pressing into the courtyard. The air smells like humanity, sweat and smoke and onions, always the onions. The high priest appears on the top platform of the ziggurat. He's wearing his ceremonial robes, elaborate things with gold thread and precious stones. He raises his arms, the crowd quiets. He chants something in what might be an older form of Sumerian. You don't understand all the words, but you get the general idea. He's asking Enlil to bless the city, to provide water for the crops, to protect against enemies, to keep disease away, to make the harvest good, the usual requests. He sacrifices a lamb. Someone hands it to him. He performs the ritual, and the lamb becomes an offering to the gods. Its meat will be consumed by the priests, who will eat it on behalf of the gods, because that's how offerings work. Then he makes an announcement. The NC has declared that a new section of canal needs to be built. Work will begin next week. All able-bodied citizens will be required to participate. There will be extra beer rations. The crowd accepts this news with the enthusiasm of people who have no choice. More canal work. Great. But hey, extra beer. So there's that. The ceremony ends. People disperse. You head back toward your house through the maze of streets. The sun's setting now, painting the sky orange and red. The temperature's dropping fast. In a few hours, it'll actually be cold. Desert climates are like that. Extreme heat during the day, surprising cold at night. You pass a shrine to Inanna. Someone's left fresh flowers and a cup of beer. The flowers are already wilting in the heat. The beer's probably warm, but it's the thought that counts. The gods appreciate offerings, even sad ones, maybe especially sad ones, shows you're really trying. Near your house, there's a commotion. A small crowd has gathered. You push closer to see what's happening. There's a man on the ground, clearly injured. His leg is bent at a bad angle. Broken, probably. Someone's already sent for a priest-doctor. This is bad. Really bad. A broken leg in ancient Sumer is potentially a death sentence. If it heals wrong, you can't work. If you can't work, you can't eat. If infection sets in, which it often does, you die. The priest-doctor arrives. He's carrying a bag of supplies. He examines the leg, makes some pronouncements about which god is responsible for the injury and why, then starts setting the bone. No anesthesia, no painkillers beyond maybe some beer. The man screams. Several people have to hold him down. The priest splints the leg with wooden sticks and cloth strips. He chants an incantation to drive away the demons causing the pain. He applies some kind of paste made from herbs and animal fat. Then he gives instructions to the man's family about care and feeding and prayer. The man might live. He might not. It's in the God's hands now, which is what the priest says. Everything is always in the God's hands. You continue home. Your family's preparing dinner. More barley, this time as a thick soup with lentils and onions. There's also fish, fresh fish from the river, grilled over the fire. This is actually pretty good by Sumerian standards. Protein is protein. You eat sitting in the courtyard. The stars are coming out. Without any artificial light, they're brilliant. The Milky Way is visible as a glowing band across the sky. The Sumerians have been studying these stars for generations. They've mapped constellations. They've tracked planetary movements. They've figured out how to predict eclipses. Not because they find it scientifically interesting, though they probably do, but because the stars are gods, or at least controlled by gods, and understanding their movements helps predict the gods' intentions. Everything comes back to the gods. After dinner, you sit and rest. Tomorrow will be another day of canal work, another day of heat and labour and survival. But right now, in this moment, with food in your stomach and your family around you and the cool night air finally providing relief from the day's heat, things are okay. Not good, just okay. And in ancient Sumer, okay is about as good as it gets. Morning comes again. Because of course it does. You're back on canal duty, but today's different. The overseer pulls you aside after a few hours of digging, says they need someone to help the city scribes. They're doing an inventory of grain supplies and need extra hands to move the clay tablets around. You're basically going to be a filing cabinet. But hey, it's indoor work. Anything to get out of the sun. The scribe school is attached to the temple complex, naturally. Everything important happens near the ziggurat. You head there through streets that are already baking. It's maybe 2 hours past dawn and the temperature's climbing fast. By noon, it'll be unbearable. By mid-afternoon, deadly, if you're not careful. Inside the scribe school, it's cooler. Not cool, but cooler. The thick mud brick walls keep some of the heat out. Small windows near the ceiling let in light without letting in too much sun. There's even a slight breeze moving through. The room is full of young men, hunched over clay tablets. Dozens of them, all writing. The sound is distinctive. Reed styluses pressing into wet clay, making little wet popping sounds. Scratch, press, pop. Scratch, press, pop, over and over. A teacher walks among them, hands behind his back, watching. He stops behind one student, looks at his work and smacks him on the shoulder. Not hard, but not gentle either. Your signs are sloppy. Do it again. The kid smooths out his clay tablet with a wet rag and starts over. Welcome to Sumerian education, where mistakes are corrected with physical violence and everyone just accepts this as normal. Let me tell you about cuneiform writing because it's genuinely bonkers. It started simple. About 5,000 years ago, temple officials needed to keep track of stuff. How many sheep in the temple flock? How much grain in storage? Who owed what taxes? So they used small clay tokens. 1 token equals 1 sheep. 10 tokens equals 10 sheep. Easy. Then someone had a brilliant idea. Instead of storing thousands of physical tokens, why not just press the tokens into soft clay to make an impression? Now you've got a permanent record without needing to warehouse all the tokens. From there, it evolved. People started drawing little pictures directly into the clay. A sheep looked like a sheep. Bread looked like bread. A person looked like, well, a stick figure person. That worked fine for simple stuff. But how do you draw go, or love, or angry? You can't just draw an emotion. So the Sumerians got creative. A picture of a foot meant foot, sure. But it could also mean walk, run, stand, go, movement. The same symbol could mean different things depending on context. Then they made the real leap. The symbols started representing sounds instead of just things. In Sumerian, the word ti means both arrow and life, so the symbol for arrow could be used anywhere the sound ti appeared, regardless of what the actual word meant. Boom. Phonetic writing system. This meant you could write anything. Full sentences with grammar, tone, emotion, stories, laws, shopping lists, angry letters to your lazy brother, poetry, medical prescriptions, literally anything that could be spoken could now be written. The script looks like little wedge-shaped marks pressed into clay. That's why we call it cuneiform, from the Latin cunus, meaning wedge. The scribes use a reed stylus, cut at an angle, and press it into wet clay tablets. Here's the thing though, there are about 2,000 different cuneiform signs. 2,000, and that's just a start. Over time it got simplified to only 600 or so commonly used signs, but still, 600 symbols you need to memorize. Each symbol can have multiple meanings depending on context. Some symbols represent things, some represent sounds, some represent both, some represent syllables, some represent whole words. There's no consistent rule, you just have to memorize all of it. Which takes years. These kids started when they were maybe 7 years old. They'll be teenagers before they're competent, adults before they're actually skilled. It's brutal, but it's also your ticket to a better life. Scribes don't dig canals, they don't carry bricks. They sit inside, out of the heat, writing on tablets and managing accounts. They get paid better, they're respected, they're part of the educated elite. So parents who can afford it send their sons to scribe school, pay the tuition, accept the beatings as part of the process, hope their kid makes it through. Daughters don't usually attend. There are female scribes, the records prove it, but they're rare. Most scribes are men. Most educated people are men. Women mostly learn weaving, pottery, household management. Unless you're born into the priestly class, then maybe you get educated, maybe you become a priestess, maybe you end up running a temple. But for most women, life is about marriage, children, and keeping the household running. Not great. But again, this is 3000 BC. Gender equality won't be invented for another 5,000 years. The head scribe sees you and waves you over. He's older, maybe 50. That's ancient in Sumer. Most people don't make it past 40. He's got the characteristic scribe posture, shoulders slightly hunched from years of bending over tablets. You, can you count? You nod. Everyone in Sumer can count. You have to. Rations are measured. Work is tallied. Beer is counted. If you can't count, you get cheated. Good. Start moving these tablets to the storage room. Carefully, drop one and I'll have you beaten. He's not joking. These tablets represent records, legal documents, contracts, religious texts, temple accounts. They're valuable. More valuable than you are, frankly. You start moving them. Each tablet is about the size of your hand. They're heavy, solid clay, some are still slightly damp. Fresh records from this morning. Most are dried and hard. A few have been baked in a kiln to make them permanent. The tablets that get baked are the important ones. Legal codes, major contracts, religious texts. The rest just dry naturally. If they break or get damaged, they can be re-wet and recycled. Nothing goes to waste in Sumer. As you carry tablets, you glance at some of the texts. You can't read cuneiform, you're not educated, but you can recognise some symbols, numbers mostly, and your own name, which is basically the only thing most non-scribes can write. One tablet is an account of sheep. How many sheep the temple owns, how many were born this year, how many died, how many were sacrificed, how much wool they produced. Every single sheep is tracked. Another tablet is a contract. Someone borrowed grain from the temple. They have to pay it back after harvest, with interest. If they can't pay, their labour goes to the temple instead. It's all spelled out in careful cuneiform. Another tablet is a school exercise. A student practicing the same sign over and over, getting it wrong, trying again. The teacher's corrections are written at the bottom. Sloppy. Do better. You move tablets for an hour. Storage room to study room to archive, archive to priest's office. It's monotonous, but it's not physically demanding, and you're inside, out of the sun. Through the window you can see the marketplace starting to come alive. Even though it's getting hotter, people need to trade, buy food, sell goods. Life continues despite the heat. The head scribe eventually releases you. That's enough. Go. You head out into the sun and immediately regret every decision that led you here. The heat hits like a physical wall. After an hour in the relative cool of the scribe school, the outside feels like walking into fire. The marketplace is pure chaos. Picture a large open area near the city gate. Now fill it with hundreds of people. Add wooden stalls and reed awnings for shade. Spread goods everywhere. Baskets of grain, hanging bundles of dried fish, clay pots of oil and honey, woven cloth, leather sandals, metal tools, jewellery, herbs, vegetables, live chickens in cages. Now add the noise. Everyone's shouting, vendors calling out their wares, buyers haggling prices, animals making animal sounds, children running around screaming, musicians playing for coins, someone's grinding grain with a stone mill. The scrape and thump of the grinding creates a rhythm under everything else. Add the smells, roasting meat, fresh bread, dried fish, rotting vegetables, sweat, animals, incense from a nearby shrine, leather being tanned, metalwork producing that distinctive hot metal smell. It's sensory overload. You need to buy onions, obviously. Your household is running low, which is basically an emergency because what are you going to eat if you don't have onions? The vegetable seller sees you coming. She's middle-aged, sun-darkened skin, wearing a simple dress and a head covering to protect from the sun. Her stall has onions, leeks, garlic, cucumbers, lettuce, all grown in the fields outside the city. 2 bundles of onions, you say. She names a price. It's too high. You counter with a lower price. She acts offended. You start to walk away. She calls you back. You negotiate. Finally, you agree on a price that's probably closer to fair than either of your opening offers. You pay in barley. Most transactions in Sumer are done through barter or grain. Coins won't be invented for another couple thousand years, so you carry around grain, measure it out, trade it for goods. The seller weighs your barley on a balance scale to make sure you're not cheating her. Transaction complete. Nearby, a metal worker is showing off copper tools, axes, chisels, knives. Copper is expensive. These tools are for wealthy buyers. You look anyway because they're impressive. Shiny, sharp, well made. The metal worker catches you looking. You want to buy? Can't afford it. He laughs. Nobody can. But they buy anyway. Come back when you have silver. Silver is currency for major transactions, land sales, large contracts, bribes. You've never held silver in your life. You probably never will. Next to the metalworker, a potter is selling clay vessels, jars for storage, cups for drinking, lamps for oil. Pottery is cheaper than metal, more accessible. Everyone needs pots. They crack, they break. You need new ones. A woman is examining a large storage jar, checking for cracks. She finds one, points it out, demands a lower price. The potter argues. She doesn't budge. He eventually agrees, grumbling. This is how the economy works. Small transactions, person to person, face to face. No written receipts for this stuff unless it's a major purchase that needs to be recorded on a clay tablet and witnessed by officials. Near the edge of the market, there's a beer cellar. This is what you really came for. Your household's beer supply is low. The cellar has large ceramic jars of beer covered with cloth to keep flies out. You can smell it from here. Sweet, yeasty, thick. How much for a full jar? She names the price. You don't bother negotiating. Beer prices are pretty standard. Everyone knows what beer costs. You hand over more barley and she fills your jar. You'll carry it home carefully because if you drop it and the beer spills, your family will murder you. While she's filling your jar, you notice a man at the next stall selling something unusual. Shells. Not local shells, exotic ones. Shells from far away. Probably the Persian Gulf coast. Where'd you get those? You ask. Trader brought them from Dilmun, 3 weeks' journey. Beautiful, yes, Dilmun, the island the Sumerians believe they came from originally. Paradise, the home of the gods. It's also a real place you can sail to if you're brave or stupid enough to make the journey. Trade is huge in Sumer. The river valleys don't have much wood, no metals, no stone. Everything has to be imported, so traders travel up and down the rivers to the mountains, to the coast, bringing back timber from Lebanon, copper from Anatolia, shells from the Gulf, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. Yeah, Afghanistan. People are trading goods across thousands of miles in 3000 BC. It's genuinely impressive. You buy your onions and beer and head home before the midday heat gets worse. Too late. It's already worse. The sun's directly overhead, no shadows, no shade except inside buildings. The air shimmers. The streets are almost empty. Anyone with sense is inside. You rush home. The beer jar is getting heavy. Your arms are tired. The onion bundles keep slipping, but you make it. The household's in the courtyard, sitting in what little shade exists. Someone's already prepared a midday meal. Bread, dried fish, dates, and now beer, thanks to you. You're a hero. You eat, you drink, you rest. Outside, the city goes quiet. This is the hottest part of the day. Even the birds stop singing. Even the dogs stop moving. Everything just stops and waits for the temperature to drop. You lean against the courtyard wall and close your eyes, just for a moment, just to rest. Your mind drifts, thinking about the scribes and their tablets, the marketplace chaos, the exotic shells from Dilmun, the copper tools you'll never afford, the beer you're drinking right now through a reed straw, thick and sweet and filling. Life in Sumer is hard, no question, but it's also life. People trade, people talk, people create, people survive. They've built cities in a desert, they've invented writing, they've developed agriculture, mathematics, astronomy, they've created art and music and poetry. They've also created massive inequality, brutal working conditions, and a religious system based on fear. So it's not all positive, but they're trying. Humans are always trying. Even 5,000 years ago, even in the brutal heat of Mesopotamia, people were figuring things out. Building, creating, surviving, and honestly, from your comfortable bed right now, with your climate control and your clean water, and your full stomach, and your complete lack of onion-based meals, you can appreciate their effort, even if you wouldn't want to live there. Not even for a day. The heat continues. The afternoon stretches. Time moves slowly when you're trying not to move at all. Eventually, someone suggests going to the river, the public bathing area. It's not far, and it's water, cooler than the air anyway. You go. The river's crowded. Everyone had the same idea. People are wading in, splashing each other, washing off the day's dust and sweat. Kids are playing. Women are washing clothes by beating them against rocks. Men are swimming to the deeper parts. The water's murky, brown with silt. Definitely not clean by modern standards, but it's wet and it's cooler than the air, and right now that's all that matters. You wade in up to your waist. The water feels amazing. The heat finally releases its grip on you. Your body temperature drops. Your breathing slows. You dunk your head under, hold your breath, come up gasping. Better, so much better. You stay in the water for a while, just existing, floating, watching the sky, watching other people do the same thing. This is life in ancient Sumer. Brutal heat followed by brief relief. Hard work followed by simple pleasures. Survival punctuated by moments where you remember why surviving is worth it. The sun starts dropping toward the horizon. The heat breaks. People start leaving the river, heading home for the evening meal. You follow, dripping, cooler, refreshed. Tomorrow you'll be back digging canals, but right now you're okay. And in Sumer, okay is pretty damn good. The next morning, something's different. You can feel it before you're fully awake. There's tension in the air. Voices outside aren't the usual lazy morning conversation. They're urgent, sharp. You get up fast. In the courtyard, your neighbours are gathered. Someone's talking quickly, gesturing. You catch fragments. Scouts reported yesterday. Kish is mobilising. The Lugal says, oh no, war. Let me explain something about Sumer. There are roughly 20 city-states scattered across southern Mesopotamia, all within about 300 square miles. That's tiny. You can see neighbouring cities from your ziggurat's top platform on a clear day. All these cities need the same thing, water, from the same rivers, for the same fields, to feed the same growing populations. You see the problem. When one city builds a canal and diverts water upstream, the cities downstream get less water. Their crops suffer, people go hungry, tensions rise, diplomats fail, and eventually the Lugal calls up the army. The Lugal is different from the Ensi. The Ensi runs the city day to day, manages the temples, oversees the irrigation. He's administrator-in-chief. The Lugal, which literally means big man, is the war leader. When things get dangerous, when the city needs defending or attacking, the Lugal takes over. Originally, the Lugal was temporary, elected during emergencies. When the crisis passed, power returned to the Ensi and the Council of Elders. Democracy, sort of. collective decision-making. But here's what happened. Wars kept happening, crises kept emerging, the Lugal kept getting called up. Eventually, some Lugals just didn't give power back. They kept it, made it permanent, made it hereditary, passed it to their sons. That's how you get kings. Your city's Lugal is a guy named Mescalamdug, not the brightest torch in the temple, but he's big and he's mean and he knows how to swing a copper axe. More importantly, he's got the backing of the city's warriors and enough of the priests to legitimize his rule. Word is spreading fast through the city. Kish is preparing an attack. Kish, the city to the north, they've been aggressive lately. Their new king, some guy named Enmabarajasi, has been expanding, conquering smaller cities, building an empire. Now he wants your water. By midday, the whole city knows. The Lugal has called an assembly in the ziggurat courtyard. Everyone's required to attend. When the Lugal summons, you show up. Period. The courtyard is packed. Thousands of people pressed together in the heat. The Lugal stands on the lower platform of the ziggurat, elevated enough that everyone can see him. He's wearing armour, bronze breastplate, leather kilt reinforced with metal studs, a copper helmet that gleams in the sun. He's trying to look impressive. It's working. Kish threatens our water. He shouts. His voice carries across the courtyard. They build their canals. They take what belongs to our gods. They starve our children. The crowd murmurs. Angry, scared, both. We will not surrender. We will not beg. We will fight. Cheering. Not everyone, but enough. War means danger, but it also means glory. Loot, slaves, land. For the warriors, anyway. For everyone else, it means terror and possible death. Every able man will serve. Bring your tools, your weapons, your courage. Tomorrow we march. More cheering. The Lugal raises his axe. The copper blade catches the light. The crowd roars. You feel sick. See, here's the thing about Sumerian warfare. It's not professional soldiers fighting other professional soldiers on some distant battlefield. It's farmers and labourers and craftsmen, handed weapons, told to march to the neighbouring city and ordered to kill the farmers and labourers and craftsmen there. The warriors, the actual trained fighters, they're a small group, maybe 100 men in a city of 10,000. They're the Lugal's personal guards, professional, skilled, equipped with the best bronze weapons and armour. Everyone else, you get a wooden spear with a fire-hardened tip, maybe a copper knife if you're lucky, a shield made of woven reeds and leather, and absolutely no training beyond stick the pointy end in the other guy. Odds of survival, not great. That night, the city buzzes with preparation. Families gather in their courtyards, talking in hushed voices. Some people pray to the gods, some sharpen tools, some just sit quietly, processing what's coming. Your family gives you their version of encouragement. Don't die, your mother says. Super helpful. Aim for the stomach, your father adds. Easier target than the head. Can I have your good sandals if you don't come back? Your younger brother asks. Family bonding at its finest. You try to sleep, can't. Obviously, your mind keeps running through scenarios. What if you actually have to fight someone? What if they're bigger than you? What if they're better armed? What if you freeze? What if you run? What if you die? Morning comes whether you're ready or not. The assembly point is outside the city gates. Men are gathering, hundreds of them. Some look eager, most look terrified. A few are clearly drunk, which is honestly a solid strategy. The warriors are already organised. They stand in formation, bronze weapons gleaming, looking professional and deadly. They'll lead the attack. Everyone else will follow and try not to die. The Lugal rides past on a donkey. Yeah, a donkey. Horses haven't been domesticated for warfare yet. That happens later. Right now, if you're wealthy enough to ride instead of walk, you ride a donkey. The Lugal's donkey is decorated with ribbons and bells. It looks ridiculous. Nobody laughs. The Lugal has an axe. A priest performs a blessing, asks Enlil to grant victory, promises sacrifices if the battle goes well, threatens the enemy's gods, which seems unwise, but what do I know about Bronze Age theological trash talk? Then you march. The heat is already building. It's maybe 2 hours past dawn, and you're sweating. The copper knife at your belt feels heavy. The spear in your hand feels inadequate. Your shield, basically a wooden frame with leather stretched over it, feels like it might stop a strong sneeze, but nothing more. The distance to Kish is about 15 miles. That's a full day's march in this heat, carrying weapons and supplies. No one's in formation. It's just a mob of armed men trudging north through the dust. Some guys are singing war songs, boasting about what they'll do to the enemy, talking big. It's definitely helping their courage, possibly making them overconfident. Others walk in silence, eyes down, just putting one foot in front of the other. You're in the silent group. Around noon, the march stops. Heat's too extreme. Everyone collapses in whatever shade they can find. Water's distributed, it's rationed carefully. Beer too. You drink both, trying to rehydrate and calm your nerves simultaneously. A guy next to you is praying. Hands pressed together, eyes closed, lips moving, asking the gods for protection, for survival, for his family to be okay if he doesn't make it back. You start praying too. Can't hurt. The march resumes in late afternoon when the temperature drops slightly. By evening, you're close. You can see Kish in the distance. Walls, buildings, their ziggurat rising against the darkening sky. They know you're coming. They saw the dust cloud miles away. They're ready. The army camps for the night within sight of Kish's walls. Fires are lit. Food is distributed. More prayers happen. The warriors gather separately, planning. The Lugal consults with his commanders. You sit with other conscripts, all of you trying not to think about tomorrow. Someone tells a joke. It's not funny. Everyone laughs anyway. Nervous energy. Someone else shares beer from his personal supply. Pass it around. Take a drink. Pass it on. Simple human connection before possible death. You try to sleep. The ground's hard. The night's cold. Your mind won't stop racing. But eventually, exhaustion wins. You drift off. Dawn comes too fast. The attack begins before the sun's fully up. The warriors charge first, screaming, weapons raised. Everyone else follows because what else are you going to do? The gates of Kish are closed. Defenders line the walls. Arrows start falling. Not many. Archery isn't super developed yet, but enough. A man near you takes an arrow in the shoulder. He goes down screaming. You keep running. The warriors reach the walls first. They've got ladders, siege equipment. They start climbing. Defenders push the ladders away. Men fall, bones break, screaming intensifies. You reach the wall. Someone hands you a ladder. You're climbing before your brain catches up. Don't think. Just move. One rung. Another. A defender appears above you. He's got a rock. He throws it. You duck. The rock hits the guy below you. He falls. The ladder shakes. You hold on. Keep climbing. You reach the top. The defender is there with a spear. He thrusts. You deflect with your shield. The shield splits. The spear grazes your arm. Blood. Pain. You thrust back with your own spear. He dodges. Someone else comes up behind you. Another attacker. Together you push forward. The defender backs up. More attackers come over the wall. The defenders are getting overwhelmed. The gate opens from inside. Your warriors got through somehow. The main force pours in. It's chaos. Complete chaos. fighting in the streets, smoke from fires, screaming, weapons clashing, people running. You're in a group pushing through a narrow street. Defenders are throwing things from rooftops, rocks, pottery, boiling water. A clay pot shatters next to you, hot water splashing. A defender jumps down from a doorway, knife in hand. He's terrified. You're terrified. You both hesitate. Then training, what little you have, kicks in. You thrust your spear. He dodges. Not fast enough. The spear catches his side. He gasps, goes down. You stare at him. You just stabbed someone. Actually stabbed a person. He's bleeding, groaning. Someone pushes you forward. Move, keep moving. The fighting continues for hours. Eventually, Kish's defenders realize they're losing. They surrender. The Lugal accepts. The battle ends. Casualties on both sides. Dead men in the streets. Wounded crying for help. Some will survive, many won't. Infection kills more than blades in this era. The Lugal claims victory. Kish's Ensi is forced to kneel, to swear allegiance, to promise water rights, to send tribute, grain, silver, slaves. Your army loots the city, not everything, enough to hurt them, enough to make the point. Grain stores raided, valuable goods taken, people captured for slavery. You don't participate. You find a corner, sit down, look at your hands. There's blood on them, not yours, someone else's. You feel nothing, then everything, then nothing again. This is warfare in ancient Sumer, brutal, close, personal, no glory, just survival and trauma and the desperate hope that next time it's not your city being raided. The march back takes 2 days. The army's slower now, carrying loot, herding prisoners, tending to wounded. You walk in silence. Your arm where the spear grazed has been bandaged. It hurts. It'll scar. Everyone's quiet. Even the guys who were boasting before. War looked different in their imagination. You reach your city. Celebrations happen. The Lugal is praised. Sacrifices are made to the gods. Beer flows freely. People cheer. You go home. Your family's relieved you survived. Your mother cries. Your father claps your shoulder. Your brother still wants your sandals, but at least he waited until you got back to ask again. That night, you lie on your reed mat, staring at the ceiling. The scrape on your arm throbs, your muscles ache, your mind replays the fighting, the defender's face, the blood. Tomorrow you'll go back to the canals, back to normal work. Life continues, but something's changed. You've seen what civilization costs, what it takes to maintain these cities, these canals, this fragile structure of society built on mud bricks and human labour. It's not just work, it's violence, control, power. And you're just trying to survive it. Unlike your soft bed right now, your peaceful room, your lack of copper weapons and city-state conflicts, your complete absence of needing to stab anyone to protect your water rights. Feel grateful yet? You should. Life after the battle settles into routine, because it has to. Your arm heals, slowly. The scar's there now, a reminder you'll carry forever. But the wound closes, you go back to canal work. The city goes back to its daily grind. The loot from Kish gets distributed. Extra grain rations for a few weeks, which is nice. The prisoners get put to work on the hardest jobs. The Lugal gets praised in songs, and life continues. You're working a section of canal near the fields when you see it, the thing that's been changing agriculture for the past few generations, but still blows your mind every time you watch it work. The plough. Before the plough, farming was brutal. You'd take a stick, basically a sharpened branch, and jab it into the soil, make a hole, drop in a seed, cover it, move 6 inches, do it again for an entire field. Your back would be destroyed by noon. The plough changed everything. It's simple, really. A wooden blade attached to a frame. You hitch it to an ox. The ox pulls. The blade cuts through the soil, turning it over, making a furrow. You walk behind, dropping seeds into the furrow. The ox does the hard work. You just guide it. One person with a plough can do what used to take 10 people with sticks. Maybe 20. That means fewer people need to farm, which means more people can do other things. Be scribes, craftsmen, merchants, priests, warriors. The plough created specialized society. The guy working this plough is named Lugal something. Everyone's named Lugal something, or N something, or some variation of god names. Sumerian naming isn't creative. Watch this, he says, grinning. He's clearly proud of his ox and his plough. The ox leans into the harness, muscles straining. The plough blade bites into the earth. The soil turns over, dark and rich. One pass and he's created a furrow that would have taken you an hour to make by hand. Beautiful, right? He says. It is. In a weird agricultural way, it's genuinely beautiful, efficient, elegant, problem-solving at its finest. How long to plough the whole field, you ask? 2 days, maybe 3. Used to take 2 weeks with hand tools. Progress. He continues ploughing. You watch for a bit, then head back to your canal work. But your mind's stuck on the plough, on how one invention can change everything, can free up time, can create new possibilities. The Sumerians are good at this, creating tools, solving problems, figuring things out. Take the wheel, the freaking wheel. You'd think wheels would be for transportation first, right? For moving heavy things. Nope. The first wheeled carts were for religious ceremonies, for carrying statues of gods in processions, for showing off during festivals. Only later did someone think, hey, maybe we could use this for regular stuff too. Now wheels are everywhere, carts for hauling grain, for transporting bricks, for moving goods to market, and of course, for war. The Lugal has war chariots. Well, chariots is generous. They're basically carts with 2 wheels, pulled by donkeys, not horses, donkeys, with a driver and a guy holding a spear. Donkey-powered war machines. It sounds stupid. It kind of is stupid, but it works. You can move faster than infantry. You can charge through enemy lines. You can create chaos and fear until your donkey gets spooked and runs away, which happens more often than the Lugal would like to admit. Someone once joked that the military should call them donkeyry instead of cavalry. That person got beaten for disrespecting the Lugal's army. Worth it, though. The joke was solid. Evening comes. You finish work, head home, clean up as best you can with rationed water. Dinner's the usual. Barley, onions, some dried fish, beer through a straw because it's thick and chunky, and drinking it normally means getting a mouthful of grain sediment. After dinner, you're sitting in the courtyard when a neighbour comes by. He's a craftsman, makes pottery. Good at it too. Got something to show you, he says, excited. He's holding a piece of soap. Yeah, soap. The Sumerians invented soap. It's not like modern soap. No fragrance, no moisturizers, just pure cleaning power. They figured out if you mix animal fat with lye, you get this substance that removes dirt. Actually removes it instead of just smearing it around like water does. Made it this morning, he says proudly, trying to perfect the ratio. He's been experimenting for weeks. Too much lye and it burns your skin. Too little and it doesn't clean. Getting it right requires precision. Try it. You take the soap. It's grey, kind of grainy, smells weird. You rub it on your hands with a bit of water. Foam appears, actual foam. You rinse. Your hands are cleaner than they've been in months. This is wild. Right? I'm going to sell it at the market. People will pay for this. He's probably right. Cleanliness is valued in Sumer, even if it's hard to achieve. The wealthy pay good money for perfumes and oils. Soap fits right in. Your neighbour heads off to show other people his invention. You sit back down, still marvelling at your clean hands. It's the little things, small improvements, incremental progress. That's how civilization works, not giant leaps, just people solving small problems one at a time. The sky's darkening, stars are coming out. You've got some free time before bed, so you head to the small shrine on your street corner. There's going to be a gathering. People meet there sometimes in the evenings to talk, share news, drink beer. When you arrive, a group's already there. Someone's brought a board game. It's the racing game. Players move pieces around a board trying to be first to finish. Dice made from sheep knuckle bones determine how far you move. Gambling's involved, naturally. Small bets, a bit of grain here, a cup of beer there, nothing serious, just entertainment. You watch a few rounds, the dice are loaded, not intentionally, just because knuckle bones aren't perfectly balanced. Everyone knows, everyone accepts it. Part of the game's charm is figuring out which way the dice prefer to land. An older man sits down next to you. He's a teacher at the scribe school. You recognise him from when you were moving tablets. You know why the dice work the way they do? He asks. You shake your head. Mathematics, probability. The gods of chance favour certain numbers. He launches into an explanation of the Sumerian number system. This is what educated people do for fun, apparently. Talk about math. We count by 60s, he says. Not tens like you might think. 60s. He holds up his hand, points to the segments on his fingers, the joints, the sections between joints. Count these. On one hand, 12 segments. Use your other hand to track sets of 12. 5 fingers times 12 segments equals 60. You try it. He's right. If you use one hand to point at each segment while using the other hand's fingers to count sets, you get to 60. That's why we divide the day into 24 hours. That's twice 12. Each hour into 60 minutes. Each minute into 60 seconds. A full circle is 360 degrees. That's 6 times 60. Your mind's spinning. You never thought about why time is divided the way it is. Turns out it's just based on counting finger segments 5,000 years ago. The decisions ancient people made casually become permanent structures. Time itself is measured in Sumerian math. Wild. The teacher continues. He's on a roll now, talking about how Sumerian mathematicians can solve complex problems, calculate the area of irregular shapes, figure out volumes of grain storage, predict the flooding patterns of rivers using geometric formulas. We even know, he says, lowering his voice like he's sharing a secret, the relationship between the sides of a right triangle. What relationship? The square of the longest side equals the sum of squares of the other two sides. You have no idea what that means. In simpler terms, if you have a triangle with one corner perfectly square, you can predict the exact length of any side if you know the other two. It's useful for construction, for surveying land, for building. He's talking about what will later be called the Pythagorean theorem, named after some Greek guy who won't be born for another 2,000 years, but the Sumerians already know it. They've been using it for generations. Math predates the mathematicians who get credit for it. Another guy joins the conversation. He's an assistant to one of the temple's astronomers. You want to know what's really impressive? He says. We can predict when the moon will disappear. The moon disappears? Sometimes. The shadow of the earth crosses it, makes it dark, terrifies everyone who doesn't know it's coming. But we know. We track the moon's cycle. We calculate when the alignment will happen. We warn people so they don't panic. Lunar eclipses. The Sumerians can predict lunar eclipses. They've been observing the sky for so long, tracking patterns so carefully, they've figured out the cycles. Solar eclipses too, he adds. Those are trickier. but we're getting better. The conversation shifts to the calendar, how it's based on lunar cycles, 12 months of 29 or 30 days, about 354 days total, but that's 11 days short of a solar year, so every few years they add a 13th month to sync it back up. It's a messy system, but it works. The 7-day week is also Sumerian. Each day corresponds to a celestial body. Sun day, moon day. The day of Ninurta later becomes Saturn's day. Each culture that inherits this system just renames the days for their own gods, but the structure stays the same. You're sitting here in 3000 BC, listening to educated people casually discuss concepts that will define human civilization for the next 5,000 years. They don't know they're being groundbreaking. To them, it's just solving practical problems. When does the harvest happen? Track the moon. How do we divide labour shifts? Count in 60s. How do we predict disasters? Observe the sky. Simple questions, complex answers, tools and knowledge passed down, refined, improved. Someone breaks out a lyre, music time. The lyre's a stringed instrument, shaped kind of like a U with strings stretched across. The sound is beautiful, soft and melodic, perfect for evening gatherings. The player starts a song everyone knows. It's about Inanna, the goddess of love and war, about her descent to the underworld. People join in singing. You don't know all the words, but you hum along. Music is huge in Sumer. Drums, flutes, harps, lyres. The wealthy have private musicians. The temple has whole orchestras for ceremonies. Even regular people make music. It's part of life, part of how stories get told and remembered. No written musical notation yet. Everything's memorized, passed down teacher to student. Variations emerge, songs evolve, but the core melodies persist. The beer jar makes another round. You take your turn drinking through the communal straw. The beer's good tonight. Sweet, thick, filling. You can taste the barley and dates used in brewing. Beer brewing is an art in Sumer. The goddess Ninkasi, lady who fills the mouth, oversees it. There's literally a hymn to her that doubles as a brewing recipe. Singers perform it during festivals, describing each step, how to prepare the grain, how to mix it with water and dates, how to ferment it, how to strain it. Religion and practical knowledge intertwined. No hops in the beer, so it's not bitter. More like liquid bread, nutritious enough to count as a meal. Safer than water because the brewing process kills bacteria. Everyone drinks it, kids, adults, elders. It's not about getting drunk, though that happens. It's about hydration and nutrition. The gathering continues into the night. More music, more conversation. Someone tells a story about the Great Flood, how the god Enki warned one man to build a boat, how he loaded it with animals and plants, how everything else drowned, how life started over. It's a story everyone knows, gets told and retold. Details change depending on who's telling it, but the core stays the same. Gods got angry. Flood happened. Humanity survived by being clever and lucky. Eventually, people start drifting home. You do the same, walking through dark streets under brilliant stars. No streetlights, no light pollution, just starlight and the occasional oil lamp in a window. Back home, your family's already asleep. You find your spot on the reed mat. Lie down. The familiar ridges press into your back. The air's cool now, almost cold. You pull a wool blanket over yourself. Today, you saw a plough making farming easier, soap making washing possible, dice and games making evenings fun. You heard about mathematics that will outlast empires, about astronomy that maps the cosmos, about music and stories that preserve culture. The Sumerians aren't just surviving, they're creating, inventing, building knowledge that will echo through millennia. And you're just a regular person, a canal digger, someone who got conscripted for war and lived to tell about it, someone who drinks beer through a straw and sleeps on a reed mat and works in brutal heat. But you're part of it, this grand experiment called civilization, where people come together, solve problems, create tools, share knowledge, where innovation happens not in isolation but in communities, where one person's clever solution becomes everyone's standard practice. It's messy, violent sometimes, unfair often, but it's also genuinely impressive. Unlike your modern bed, your climate control, your instant access to all human knowledge through a device in your pocket, your complete lack of needing to count finger segments to do math. You've got it easier. Way easier. The stars outside are the same stars the Sumerians mapped. The math they invented still structures your day. The wheel they designed still moves your stuff. The beer they brewed still gets consumed at gatherings. 5,000 years later, their innovations persist. That's worth something. You close your eyes. Sleep comes easier tonight. Tomorrow's just canal work. Normal, regular, non-violent canal work. You can handle that. The sounds of the city fade, distant voices, a dog barking, the wind moving through reed walls, peace, brief, temporary, but real. You'll take it. The next few weeks pass without major incidents. Canal work, market trips, evening gatherings, the rhythm of Sumerian life. Then, one morning, the NC makes an announcement. There's going to be a trial. Civil War soldiers were more likely to die from diarrhea than from bullets. No, really. The disease killed 44,000 Union soldiers. That's the equivalent of 10 entire Gettysburg battles, and that was just one of the many diseases they faced. Hey, quick thing before we start. If you actually listen to these regularly, hit like or subscribe. I always wonder where everyone's at, so comment your city and what time it is. Weird to think some of you are having breakfast in London while I'm recording this at night here in the States. Alright, tonight it's the American Civil War, but before we go anywhere, get comfortable. Like, actually comfortable. Pillows good? Blanket situation handled? Perfect. Trust me on this one. Your eyes open to early morning light filtering through canvas. April 1863, Union Army, somewhere in Pennsylvania. First thing you notice is the straw poking through your thin blanket, jabbing into your back like tiny daggers. The wool blanket you're wrapped in scratches your skin and smells like wet dog mixed with sweat, not like your plush mattress at home. What pulls you fully awake is the sound, a bugle blaring reveille, hundreds of men coughing, someone nearby groaning with stomach cramps. That's becoming a familiar sound in camp, too familiar. Get up, Fletcher captain's coming through. You're Thomas Fletcher, 16 years old, though your enlistment papers say 18. You've been in the Union Army for exactly 3 weeks, and every morning you wake up wondering what the hell you were thinking. Back on your family's farm in western Pennsylvania, this time of morning meant feeding animals and helping Ma with breakfast. Now it means rushing to get dressed before the officers come through, trying to find clean water to wash your face, and praying your stomach doesn't betray you like it did yesterday. I swear to God, says your tent mate Wilkins, a factory worker from Philadelphia, if I have to dig another latrine today, I'm deserting. He doesn't mean it, not really, but the sentiment is there. The ground outside is mud. Not regular mud, this special kind of mud made by thousands of men living in close quarters with poor drainage. It's mixed with horse manure, human waste that didn't make it to the latrines, and whatever else has been discarded. And the smell? Jesus. I can't even describe it properly. It was bad. Like gag reflex bad. You'd probably need to breathe through your mouth. You know what's wild? 3 weeks ago, you were so excited to join. You'd heard Lincoln's call for volunteers, listened to the recruiter talk about glory and saving the Union, watched the town celebrate as you and 5 other boys signed up. Your ma cried, but your pa looked proud. Said you were doing what needed doing. Nobody told you about the mud, or the food, or the dysentery. Fletcher uniform inspection in 10 minutes. Get your ass moving. That's Sergeant Miller, former schoolteacher from Boston, seems to enjoy making your life miserable. You stumble out of your tent into the chaos of camp. 15,000 men all doing the same thing at once creates a special kind of madness. The camp stretches for miles, tents arranged in neat rows that somehow still look messy, campfires sending smoke into the morning air, men in various states of dress rushing about. Your stomach growls. Breakfast will be hardtack and salt pork, if you're lucky. Hardtack is basically a brick made of flour that could crack your teeth if you're not careful. Most guys soak it in coffee to soften it up. Problem is, sometimes that reveals the weevils living inside. Extra protein, the veterans joke. You're not laughing yet. Look alive, boys. It's Corporal Jenkins, looking way too chipper for this hour. Word is we're moving out tomorrow, heading south. The words send a jolt through you. South means closer to battle. You enlisted to fight, sure, but the reality of it is starting to sink in. They say Lee's army is on the move, Jenkins continues, lowering his voice like he's sharing state secrets. Could be the big one. William, the quiet farmer's son from Ohio who sleeps on your other side, looks up from lacing his boots. My pa says every battle is the big one until the next one comes along. Smart kid, William, barely older than you, but sometimes seems like he's carrying the wisdom of someone 3 times his age. His hands are permanently stained with dirt from the farm, much like yours. The morning routine is mind-numbing but necessary. Roll call, breakfast, drilling, more drilling, cleaning your rifle until you can see your reflection in the metal. You fired it exactly twice during training. Some of the boys had never held a gun before enlisting. "You seen Johnson this morning?" asks Wilkins, chewing on hardtack that makes an audible crunch with each bite. "Infirmary," says William quietly. "Fever got worse in the night." A moment of silence falls between you. 3 men from your company have already died of disease, and you haven't even seen battle yet. The infirmary tent is a place of nightmares, men moaning in pain, the smell of infected wounds and body odour, harried doctors moving from cot to cot with barely a glance at each patient. After breakfast, which is a generous way of describing what you just ate, it's drill time. 2 hours of marching back and forth across a muddy field, practicing formations that supposedly matter in battle. Forward march, right face, about face, load in 9 times, present arms. Your drill instructor is a weather-beaten man named Corporal Haynes who fought in the Mexican War. His voice carries across the field like thunder. "You call that a formation. My dead grandmother could make a straighter line again. The rifle is heavy. That's the thing nobody tells you. The Springfield model 1861 weighs about 10 pounds, which doesn't sound like much until you're holding it at shoulder arms for an hour. Your muscles burn. Sweat trickles down your back despite the cool spring air. But Haynes keeps pushing. When you meet Johnny Reb on the battlefield, you'll thank me. Loading your rifle needs to be instinct. You hesitate, you die. You try not to think about the dying part. Mid-morning brings a different kind of drill, bayonet practice, charging at straw dummies tied to posts, stabbing and slashing with a foot-long blade attached to your rifle. The thought of driving this into another human being makes your stomach turn, but you push the feeling down. This is what you signed up for. "Put your weight into it, Fletcher," Haynes barks. "They won't just stand there and let you poke 'em." By noon, your uniform is soaked through with sweat and your hands are blistered. There's a brief respite for a meal that's nearly identical to breakfast, and then it's equipment inspection. The sergeant walks down the line, examining each soldier's kit: rifle, bayonet, cartridge box, cat pouch, haversack, canteen, blanket, roll. Everything must be in place, clean as possible given the circumstances. "Your rifle's filthy, Thompson," he says to the man next to you. "Clean it again." When he reaches you, he pauses. "Boots coming apart, Fletcher. See the quartermaster after this." You glance down. Sure enough, the sole of your right boot is separating from the upper. Great. The quartermaster is notoriously stingy with new equipment. "Stitch it together," he'll probably say. "We're not made of boots." After inspection comes fatigue duty, the Army's term for chores. Today, your squad is assigned to dig new latrines. The old ones are filling up fast and the smell is becoming unbearable even by camp standards. So you spend 2 hours digging trenches in the hard ground, taking turns with worn shovels. "You know what my father told me before I left," says Wilkins, pausing to wipe sweat from his brow. "He said, 'Son, in the army you'll see the best and worst of men.' He didn't mention I'd be smelling the worst too." That gets a laugh from the group. Humour, however crude, is your collective shield against the reality of your situation. By late afternoon, your hands are raw and your back aches, but the new latrines are dug. You head to the creek that runs along the edge of camp to wash up. The water is cold and not particularly clean, too many men using it upstream, but it's better than nothing. As you're scrubbing dirt from your hands, William appears beside you. "Letter call came while we were digging," he says, holding out an envelope. "This one's for you." Your heart leaps. Mail from home is the most precious thing in camp. You dry your hands on your trousers and take the letter carefully. Your mother's handwriting. You'll save it for tonight, something to look forward to. "Any for you?" you ask William. He shakes his head. "Not today." Dinner is beans and salt pork, with coffee so weak it's practically brown water, but you eat every bite. One thing the army has taught you: never skip a meal. You never know when the next one is coming. As the sun begins to set, an unusual excitement runs through the camp. A travelling photographer has arrived and set up his equipment near the officers' tents. For 25 cents, soldiers can have their portrait taken to send home. "Should we do it?" Wilkins asks, genuinely excited for the first time in days. You check your meagre funds. 25 cents is a lot, nearly half of what you have left from your last pay. But the thought of sending your portrait home to your mother... "Let's do it," you decide. The line is long, but you wait patiently. When your turn comes, the photographer, a thin, nervous man with ink-stained fingers, positions you in front of a plain backdrop. "Chin up. Look brave," he instructs. You try your best to look like a soldier, not a frightened farm boy. The flash powder ignites with a bright burst and acrid smoke. That's it. In 2 weeks, if you're lucky, your mother will receive a tintype of her son in uniform. As darkness falls, campfires flicker to life across the vast encampment. Your company gathers around one, the familiar faces illuminated by the dancing flames. Someone has a harmonica and plays a mournful rendition of "Home Sweet Home" that makes your chest tight with longing. Now feels like the right time to read your letter. You carefully open the envelope, preserving it for a reply. Your mother's words leap off the page. News of home, how your father's managing the farm without you, your sister's new baby. You're an uncle now. Questions about whether you're eating enough and staying warm. There's no mention of the war itself, as if by not acknowledging it, she can keep you safe. The letter ends with a pressed wildflower from the meadow behind your house. The sight of it nearly undoes you. "Good news?" asks William, noticing your expression. "I'm an uncle," you manage, carefully tucking the flower back into the envelope. Around the fire, men share bits of news from their own letters, creating a patchwork map of home across the northern states. Stories of harvests and church socials and town gossips feel like dispatches from another world, but the conversation inevitably turns to tomorrow's march and what might lie beyond it. "My cousin was at Bull Run," says Thompson, poking at the fire with a stick. "Said it was pure chaos. Men running in every direction, couldn't tell friend from foe through the smoke." "My brother fought at Shiloh," another soldier adds. "Said the dead were so thick on the ground you couldn't walk without stepping on somebody. You listen silently, fear coiling in your stomach." These are the stories they don't print in newspapers, that recruiters don't tell wide-eyed boys signing their names. "Enough of that talk," Jenkins interrupts. "We'll face what comes when it comes. No use borrowing trouble." Wise words, but cold comfort as you return to your tent for the night. The canvas structure seems flimsy protection against what awaits you in the days ahead. You settle onto your bedroll, the straw crackling beneath you. Outside, the sounds of camp gradually quiet, the occasional laugh, a bout of coughing, the distant neigh of horses. Above the tent, through a small gap in the canvas, you can see stars dotting the night sky. The same stars shine over your family's farm, over the Confederate camps somewhere to the south, over a country tearing itself apart. Sleep comes fitfully, as it always does in camp. Your dreams are a confusion of home and war, familiar faces and nameless fears. Tomorrow, you march toward whatever waits beyond the horizon. What you don't know yet is that this relatively comfortable camp life, despite its hardships, will soon seem like luxury. The mud, the poor food, the endless drilling, all of it preparing you for something much worse. But for now, you sleep, rifle within arm's reach, surrounded by men who were strangers 3 weeks ago and now know your snoring patterns. In the morning, the bugle will wake you again and the next chapter of your war will begin. The bugle sounds before dawn, jerking you from what little sleep you manage to get. Outside your tent, the camp is already stirring, an anthill of activity as 15,000 men prepare to march. "Rise and shine, princess," Wilkins says, already pulling on his boots. "Today's the day we earn our glory." "Or our coffins," William mutters, but only you hear him. Breakfast is hardtack and lukewarm coffee. You've learned to pound the hardtack into crumbs and mix it with coffee, creating a grey paste that's easier to swallow than trying to bite the rock-hard biscuit. Tastes like wet cardboard, but it fills the stomach. By first light, you're standing in formation with your company. The morning air is crisp, mist hanging low over the fields. Captain Hayes paces in front of the line, his boots polished despite the mud. He's young for a captain, maybe 25, with a neat moustache and eyes that have already seen too much. "Men," he says, voice carrying across the silent ranks. "We march south today to join the main army, 10 miles at least. Light packs, full canteens. Any man who falls out will answer to me personally. 10 miles doesn't sound too bad. Back home, you'd walk that far, just checking fences." But that was without a 10-pound rifle, 40 rounds of ammunition, a bayonet, canteen, haversack, and everything else the army deems necessary. The regiment moves out with surprising order, each company filing into place on the road. From your position you can see the column stretching ahead and behind, thousands of men in blue, a giant centipede winding through the countryside. The early sun glints off rifle barrels and brass buttons. Flags snap in the breeze. It would be beautiful if it wasn't terrifying. "You know what's crazy," Wilkins says, as you settle into the marching rhythm. "More people in this column than live in my entire hometown." He's right. It's hard to wrap your head around. All these men from farms and factories and shops across the Union, now moving as one massive organism toward whatever waits ahead. The first hour passes easily enough. The road is decent, spirits are high, and some men even sing as they march. John Brown's body echoes up and down the line. You join in at the chorus, feeling a part of something bigger than yourself. Then the road turns to mud. Recent rains have transformed the route into a brown soup that sucks at your boots with every step. What was a steady march becomes a slog. The singing dies away, replaced by curses and laboured breathing. Your pack straps dig into your shoulders. Each step requires extra effort to pull your foot from the mire. This, Wilkins pants beside you, is bullshit. 2 hours in, and the first men begin to fall out. Not many, mostly the obviously sick or elderly, but enough to notice the gaps forming in the column. An officer on horseback rides alongside, shouting encouragement that sounds more like threats. Keep moving, any man stopping will face court-martial. By noon, your uniform is soaked with sweat despite the cool spring air. Your feet are screaming, blisters forming where your damp socks rub against poorly fitted boots. The column halts briefly beside a stream, officers allowing 15 minutes to refill canteens and relieve yourselves. You collapse on a patch of grass, legs trembling with fatigue. William sits beside you, face pale beneath a layer of road dust. Neither of you speaks, saving energy for what's ahead. Wilkins, somehow still energetic, drops down beside you and pulls off his boots. First rule of marching, he says, inspecting his feet. Take care of these, or you're finished. He produces a small tin of grease from his pocket and begins rubbing it on the raw spots. Got this from an old Mex War veteran. Sheep fat mixed with beeswax. Stops the rubbing. He offers you the tin. The grease smells rancid, but you apply it gratefully to your own blistered heels. It's disgusting, but feels instantly better. How far you reckon we've come? William asks, accepting the tin next. Wilkins squints at the sun. 5-6 miles, maybe. Halfway there, if the captain was telling the truth. The thought isn't comforting. The 15-minute rest ends too quickly. Back on your feet, back in formation, back to putting one foot in front of the other. The road climbs now, winding up a gentle hill that feels like a mountain to your tired legs. As you crest the rise, something new appears ahead. Wagons, dozens of them coming toward the column. Ambulance wagons painted white with red crosses. The column parts to let them pass, and that's when you get your first real look at war. The wagons are packed with wounded men. Some sit upright, bandages around heads or arms, eyes vacant. Others lie flat, moaning with each bump in the road. The worst are ominously still, covered with blankets despite the warm afternoon. Jesus Christ, Wilkins whispers, his usual humour gone. A soldier in a blood-stained uniform sits at the edge of one wagon, missing an arm below the elbow. His remaining hand clutches a Bible. He makes eye contact with you as the wagon passes, and you see something in his expression that chills you. Not pain, but a strange distance, as if he's looking at you from across an unbridgeable chasm. The wagons keep coming. 10, 20, 30. How many men? Hundreds, at least, all headed north, away from wherever you're marching toward. That's the 12th Massachusetts, someone in the ranks says. They got hit bad at Chancellorsville. The name means nothing to you now, but soon it will join the growing lexicon of battle names that every soldier knows, places where men died in droves. The column marches on, but the mood has changed. The reality of what awaits has been made flesh in those broken bodies. Conversation dies away. Even the officers ride more quietly. By late afternoon, your world has narrowed to the few feet of road ahead and the endless cycle of placing one foot before the other. Your shoulders burn from the weight of your gear. Your throat is parched despite careful sips from your canteen. Hunger gnaws at your belly. When the order finally comes to make camp, it's like a reprieve from execution. The regiment files off the road into a large meadow, already filling with other units. Tents go up with practiced efficiency, despite exhausted hands. Fires flicker to life as darkness falls. You sit with your company, too tired to even complain, watching the coffee boil in the shared pot. Your feet throb inside your boots, but you're afraid to remove them, not sure you can get them back on over your swollen feet. 10 miles, the captain said. Wilkins groans, lying flat on his back. That was 15 if it was a step. 16, corrects a new voice. You look up to see a lean, weathered soldier standing at the edge of your firelight. He's older, 30 at least, with a sergeant's stripes and a cavalry trooper's unmistakable bow-legged stance. "Saw you boys coming in," he says, squatting down beside your fire. "First big march?" You nod, too tired for words. He chuckles. "Gets easier. Sort of." He extends a hand. "Sergeant Michael Reeves, 8th Pennsylvania Cavalry." "You been fighting long?" William asks after introductions. Reeves nods, accepting a cup of coffee from Wilkins. "Since 61. Bull Run, Peninsula Campaign, Antietam, Fredericksburg." He lists the battles like stops on a familiar road. "What's it like?" you hear yourself ask. "The fighting, I mean." Reeves studies you over the rim of his cup. His eyes are green, you notice, but somehow darker than any eyes you've seen. "Ain't like anything they tell you," he says finally. "Ain't glorious, ain't noble. It's loud and it's confusing and it's..." He pauses. "It's men trying to kill each other is what it is." He must see the fear in your faces because his expression softens slightly. "Look, you're in a good outfit. 6th Corps has solid leadership. Stay together, do what your officers tell you, and most of you will make it through. Most, not all." The word hangs in the air. "Any of you boys know how to play poker?" Reeves asks, changing the subject. None of you do, but he teaches you the basics, using pebbles for chips. For an hour, you forget your aching feet and the long march ahead as you learn flushes and straights and full houses. Reeves wins most hands, but lets each of you take a victory too. As the game winds down, he becomes reflective. "Been at this 2 years now," he says, shuffling the worn cards with practiced ease. "Seen things I hope you boys never do. But I'll tell you this, it ain't the Rebs you need to fear most out here." "What then?" asks William. "Yourself," Reeves says simply. "Fear will kill you faster than any bullet. Man gets scared enough, he freezes up, or he runs. Either way, he's done for." He deals another hand, then continues. "But there's something worse than fear out here." You wait for him to continue, not sure you want to hear it. "Indifference," he says. "Seen it happen to good men. They stop caring, stop seeing the dead as people, start thinking of everything as just something to get through." He taps the deck. "That's when you lose something you don't get back." The conversation turns somber after that. Reeves bids you good night, promising to look for you when the dance starts, as he puts it. Sleep comes quickly, despite the hard ground. Your body is too exhausted to care about comfort, but sometime in the dead of night you wake suddenly, unsure why. Then you hear it, screaming. Not battle cries or calls for help, but the terrible sound of a man trapped in his own mind. "Night terrors," William whispers beside you. "My uncle got 'em after the Mex War. Somewhere in the vast encampment, a soldier is reliving horrors in his sleep. The screams eventually stop, but sleep is harder to find afterward. Dawn arrives with the inevitable bugle. Your body protests every movement, muscles stiff from yesterday's march, but there's no choice. The army moves on with or without you." Breakfast is meagre. The supply wagons are running behind, the quartermaster explains. You divide hardtack and share coffee, everyone getting less than they need. As your company forms up, you notice gaps in the ranks. Some men who started yesterday aren't here today, fallen out, sent to the ambulance wagons, or simply disappeared in the night. Desertion is rarely mentioned, but everyone knows it happens. The second day's march begins like the first, but the pace seems slower. Men are already tired, feet already blistered. The road is crowded now with artillery batteries, supply wagons and cavalry scouts moving back and forth along the column. Around mid-morning, a new sound reaches your ears, a distant rumble like summer thunder, but in a cloudless sky. Artillery, says an older private named Davis. Big guns, 15-20 miles south. A murmur passes through the ranks. Battle somewhere ahead. The abstract suddenly becomes concrete. Your mouth goes dry despite the water in your canteen. The column presses on, the distant bombardment a constant reminder of your destination. The officers look more serious now, conferring in hushed voices as they ride alongside. By noon, new sights appear along the roadside, evidence that the war has passed this way before. A chimney standing alone, the house it belonged to now ashes and blackened timbers, fields trampled by thousands of boots and hooves, an abandoned cannon, its barrel burst from overuse. "Welcome to Virginia, boys," Wilkins says grimly. You're in the south now, enemy territory, though this part has changed hands so many times it's hard to say who it belongs to anymore. The few civilians you see watch from doorways with expressionless faces, neither welcoming nor hostile, just tired. A mile further, you pass something that stops conversations mid-sentence. A tree beside the road, and from one sturdy branch, a noose. It swings empty in the breeze, but the message is clear. Someone died here, whether deserter, spy, or civilian, impossible to say. The march continues through the afternoon, your feet moving automatically now, mind somewhere far away. You think of home, of your mother's cooking, of the soft bed waiting in a farmhouse hundreds of miles north. The distance feels insurmountable. Late in the day, rain begins to fall, a gentle shower at first, then a steady downpour that soaks through your uniform in minutes. Water drips from your cap into your eyes. Your already blistered feet now squish with each step, the wet leather of your boots rubbing raw skin. When camp is finally made, it's in a muddy field already churned by previous regiments. No fires tonight, the wood is too wet, and smoke might give away positions to enemy scouts. Cold rations, eaten in the rain, huddled under whatever shelter you can find. Your tent, pitched hastily in the downpour, leaks from a dozen places. You, Wilkins, and William sit in miserable silence, water pooling around your legs, too wet and tired to even complain. "My sister got married last Sunday," William says suddenly, staring at nothing. "Wrote me about it last month, said she wished I could be there to see it." The random statement hangs in the damp air, a reminder of the normal lives continuing elsewhere, oblivious to your current misery. "My girl's probably walking out with Jimmy Porter by now," Wilkins adds. "Told her not to wait, but she promised she would." You think of your own family, wondering what they're doing at this moment. Sitting down to dinner, perhaps. Your empty chair at the table, your father saying grace, maybe asking God to watch over his son. "Why'd you join up?" you ask Wilkins, realising you've never discussed it. He's quite so long, you think he hasn't heard. Finally, "Factory where I worked shut down. Army pays regular, at least." A pause. "You?" The truth is complicated. Patriotism, yes. Adventure, certainly. But mostly because everyone expected it, because saying no seemed harder than saying yes. Seemed like the right thing, is all you say. William nods, as if this makes perfect sense. My older brother died at Antietam, he says softly. Felt like I owed it to him. The rain drums on the canvas above. Somewhere in the vast camp, a harmonica plays a melancholy tune that seems to capture everything you're feeling. Sleep comes in fits and starts, your body too uncomfortable for true rest. Twice you wake to roll away from water dripping directly on your face. Morning arrives grey and drizzly. The march resumes, somehow even more miserable than before. The mud is deeper, the fatigue more profound, the muscles more sore. But something new enters the equation today. Anticipation. The artillery sounds are closer now, no longer distant rumbles but distinct booms that occasionally shake the ground. Cavalry couriers gallop past the column with increasing frequency, carrying dispatches to and from the front. You're close now, close to whatever awaits. Around midday, the column halts more permanently than the usual short breaks. Officers ride back and forth, conferring and pointing. The men use the opportunity to rest, though the air of tension prevents true relaxation. What's happening? William asks, though none of you have answers. An hour passes before Captain Hayes approaches your company. His uniform is mud-splattered, but his voice is steady. We'll be making camp here, he announces. The main Union army is deployed 3 miles ahead. We join them tomorrow morning. The news sweeps through the ranks like wildfire. Tomorrow you might see battle. As tents are raised and fires lit, rumours fly faster than cavalry scouts. The Confederate army is just beyond that ridge. No, they're retreating toward Richmond. Lee himself is commanding the Southern forces. No, he's miles away. The fighting will be minimal. No, it will be the biggest battle of the war. In this storm of speculation, Sergeant Reeves appears at your campfire again. He looks different today. Alert, focused, his cavalry uniform crisp despite the conditions. Thought I'd find you boys here, he says, declining coffee this time. Wanted to check in before tomorrow. What's really happening? Wilkins asks directly. Reeves glances around, then lowers his voice. Confederate forces are dug in along a creek about 4 miles south. Good defensive position. Our boys have been probing their lines since yesterday, looking for weakness. Will we attack? You ask, your mouth suddenly dry. Or be attacked, Reeves says with a shrug. That's for the generals to decide. Either way, your regiment will likely see action. He stands to leave, then hesitates. Listen, he says, looking at each of you in turn. First time under fire there's no preparing for it. Just remember your training. Load, aim, fire, load, aim, fire. Don't think beyond that. As darkness falls, an unusual quiet settles over the camp. Men write letters home by firelight, clean their weapons for the 1000th time, or simply sit in contemplation. A chaplain moves among the companies, offering prayers and communion to those who want it. You find yourself unable to write the letter you've been composing in your head all day. What do you say when tomorrow might be your last day on Earth? What words can possibly bridge that gap? In the end, you write simply, Dear Ma and Pa, we've marched to Virginia. I'm well. Don't worry. I'll write again when I can. Your loving son, Thomas. It feels inadequate, but it will have to do. You seal the envelope and give it to the company mail orderly, who promises to send it north with the next courier. The night deepens. Fires burn low. Around one nearby, a group of veterans from another regiment are sharing stories, not of battles, as you might expect, but of strange occurrences and superstitions. Swear on my mother's Bible, one bearded soldier is saying as you approach their circle. Saw a man at Fredericksburg take 7 bullets, center mass, and walk away without a scratch. Had a Bible in his breast pocket, stopped the first one, and the rest just went around him somehow. Another veteran snorts. That's nothing. We had a fella in our company, night before Antietam, dreamed he saw his own grave with his name on it. Next day, first volley, bullet right through the heart. You listen, both fascinated and disturbed. These are the tales of the war that don't make it into newspapers or official reports. "You know what keeps you alive out there?" asks a third soldier, a sergeant with an empty sleeve pinned up. "Not luck, not skill. It's having something to live for. Man wants to see home again bad enough. Somehow the bullets miss him." "Or having something worth dying for," adds another quietly. You return to your own fire thoughtful. Wilkins is cleaning his rifle again, though it's already immaculate. William stares into the flames, saying nothing. None of you mentions tomorrow. As you settle onto your bedroll for what might be your last peaceful night, you find yourself hyper-aware of everything. The scratch of wool blankets, distant laughter from another campfire, the occasional whinny of horses. Life, in all its messy detail, suddenly precious. Sleep, when it finally comes, is surprisingly deep. Your exhausted body overrides your anxious mind, and in the black hours before dawn, the bugle calls you to what waits ahead. The bugle tears through darkness, jerking you from sleep. For a moment, disorientation grips you. Where are you? Then reality crashes back. Virginia, the army, today, around you, the camp erupts into activity. Men stumbling from tents, officers shouting orders, the clatter of equipment being gathered in the pre-dawn gloom. No time for proper breakfast, just hardtack stuffed into pockets and cold coffee gulped down between preparations. Captain Hayes moves through the company, his face grim. Full battle gear, 60 rounds of ammunition per man. Fill your canteens completely. Your hands shake slightly as you prepare. Loading your cartridge box feels different today. Each paper-wrapped bullet might soon be fired at another human being, or might save your life. The weight of your equipment, normally annoying, now feels reassuring, especially the bayonet. As the eastern sky lightens to grey, your regiment forms up with the others of your brigade. No drums this morning, no bands playing, just thousands of men standing silently in formation, breath fogging in the cool air. Colonel Montgomery, your regimental commander, rides to the front. Even from your position in the ranks, you can see his face is deadly serious. "All men of the 140th Pennsylvania," his voice carries over the quiet ranks. "Today we join the Army of the Potomac in battle against Confederate forces. You will conduct yourselves with courage and discipline. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. For the Union. For freedom." The speech is brief, lacking the fiery patriotism of recruitment rallies. This is different. This is real. The regiment moves out as dawn breaks, marching in column along a narrow country road. After about an hour, you notice a change in the surroundings. Fence rails torn down for firewood, trees splintered by artillery, deep ruts in the road from gun carriages, the signs of armies. Then you hear it. Not the distant rumble of yesterday, but actual gunfire. Sharp cracks of rifles, the heavier boom of artillery. It's still some distance away, but unmistakable now. Wilkins glances at you, sweat already beading on his forehead despite the cool morning. "Guess they started without us." No one laughs. Humour feels strange now, out of place. The column quickens its pace. Messages pass up and down the line of officers. Ahead, you can see a ridge where other Union regiments are already deployed. Blue lines against the green hillside. "That's our position," Captain Hayes announces, pointing to an open field near the centre of the ridge. "We're reinforcing the line. As your regiment approaches, the sounds of battle grow louder. You can now distinguish individual volleys, the synchronized crash of hundreds of rifles firing at once. The ground occasionally trembles from artillery. Your mouth is desert dry despite water from your canteen. Your bowels feel loose. Veterans say it happens to everyone before battle, the body preparing to shed weight for flight or fight. Some men stop to relieve themselves at the roadside, ignoring the usual camp modesty. "Jesus," William whispers beside you. "Look at that." Beyond the ridge, smoke hangs over the distant tree line, white puffs from artillery mixed with the darker smoke of rifle fire. Through gaps in the smoke you can see flashes of movement, men advancing, retreating or falling. Colonel Montgomery halts the regiment at the base of the ridge. "Fix bayonets." The sound of steel blades clicking onto 1,500 rifle barrels sends a chill through you. This isn't drill anymore. You climb the ridge in line of battle, shoulder to shoulder with the men of your company, other companies ahead and behind. Every step brings the sounds of conflict closer, louder. At the crest, you get your first clear view of the battlefield below. It's nothing like you imagined. A creek runs through a shallow valley bordered by woods on the far side. Between the ridge where you stand and that creek is open farmland, now torn by shell holes and scattered with dark shapes you realize with horror are bodies. The far woods are shrouded in gun smoke, but you can see flashes of fire within, Confederate positions. Union batteries are positioned along your ridge, the artillerymen working their guns with mechanical precision. Every few seconds, a cannon fires with a deafening boom, adding to the constant crash of sound. Captain Hayes positions your company in a gap between two batteries. "We hold this line," he shouts over the noise. "Fire on command only." You stand in the front rank, rifle gripped so tightly your knuckles are white. Beside you, William's face is pale, his lips moving in what might be prayer. On your other side, Wilkins stares ahead with strange intensity. Minutes pass like hours. The Confederate artillery has the range of your position now. Shells explode on the ridge, showering dirt and deadly fragments. You flinch at each explosion, fighting the urge to duck or run. 100 yards to your right, a shell lands directly on a gun crew. The explosion lifts one man completely off his feet, throwing him yards away. Another crumples instantly. The survivors continue loading their cannon as if nothing happened. "Get ready," Captain Hayes shouts. Through the smoke in the valley, you see movement. A line of grey, Confederate infantry advancing across the open ground toward your position. Their battle flags flutter above them. Even at this distance, you can see bayonets gleaming. Colonel Montgomery rides behind your line. "Steady, boys, hold your fire." The grey line advances steadily despite artillery tearing gaps in their ranks. They're within rifle range now, but still no order comes to fire. The waiting is its own kind of torture. The command finally comes when the Confederates are about 300 yards away. You raise your rifle, trying to steady it against your shoulder as you've practiced. But this is different from shooting at targets. These are men coming toward you, intent on killing you if they can. Fire. 1,500 rifles discharge as one. The noise is like physical force punching through your ears. The recoil slams your rifle butt against your shoulder. Smoke envelops the line, so thick you can hardly see. Through breaks in the smoke, you glimpse the effect of your volley. The Confederate line staggers, dozens of men falling, but they don't break. They continue advancing, and now they're returning fire. Bullets whip past with angry buzzing sounds. Some strike the ground, kicking up dirt. Others hit with the sickening thud of lead striking flesh. The man 2 spaces to your left jerks backward, a dark hole appearing in his forehead. He drops without a sound, dead weight. "Load," Captain Hayes orders. Your training takes over. Bite cartridge, pour powder, ram bullet, place cap. Each motion practiced hundreds of times, now performed with desperate urgency. Aim fire. Another volley, another shock of noise and smoke. The rhythm continues. Load, aim, fire, load, aim, fire. As if time has compressed into just these three actions. Your world narrows to the rifle in your hands, the choking smoke around you, the grey line still advancing despite your fire. You lose track of how many volleys you've fired. Your shoulder aches from the rifle's recoil. Your ears ring so badly you can barely hear commands, following the actions of men beside you instead. The Confederate line has closed to about 100 yards, close enough to see faces beneath the hats, to distinguish officers from enlisted men. Someone screams to your right, not the scream of fear, but the higher, more terrible sound of agony. You don't look, can't look. Keep loading. Keep firing. A new sound cuts through the chaos. The rebel yell. The Confederate line surges forward at a run, their high-pitched battle cry sending ice through your veins. "Stand firm," Colonel Montgomery shouts, riding behind your line. "Repel them with cold steel if—" His words cut off as a bullet strikes him. He slumps forward over his horse's neck, then falls heavily to the ground. The horse bolts. The Confederate charge reaches the bottom of the ridge and starts up the slope. They're only 50 yards away now, running hard despite their casualties. Captain Hayes draws his sword. Prepare to receive charge. You grip your rifle with bayonet fixed, heart hammering against your ribs. They're going to reach your line. This will be hand to hand. But then, movement to your left. Fresh Union troops arriving at a run, thousands of them, forming quickly into battle line. Their artillery unlimbers on a small rise, the crews working with frantic energy. A new thunder joins the cacophony as these guns open fire on the Confederate flank. The effect is devastating. Entire sections of the grey line disappear in explosions of dirt and smoke. The Confederate charge falters, then stops. For a moment, the battleground becomes a tableau. Blue and grey lines facing each other across a shrinking gap, the air between filled with smoke and death. Then the grey line breaks. Not all at once, but man by man, squad by squad, they begin falling back toward the creek. Their retreat quickly becomes general. Fire, pour it into them, Captain Hayes orders. You find yourself firing mechanically, reloading and firing again without conscious thought. The smoke is so thick you can barely see your targets. You're not sure if you're hitting anything, not sure if you want to. The Confederate retreat becomes a rout, men running, dropping equipment to move faster. Union artillery continues firing into their backs as they flee toward the creek and the woods beyond. And then, sudden silence. Not complete. Moans of the wounded rise from the field. Officers still shout commands, but the constant crash of battle subsides. You stand panting, ears ringing, surrounded by smoke that slowly drifts away on the breeze. Your rifle barrel is too hot to touch. Your mouth tastes of gunpowder. Your uniform is soaked with sweat and black with powder residue. "They're running," Wilkins shouts, voice cracking with emotion. "We beat them." But there's no jubilation in the line. Just exhaustion and stunned silence as reality begins to register. Men looking around, counting who's missing. William stands beside you, pale but intact. Did you see the colonel go down?" he asks, shakily. You nod, unable to form words yet. The image of Colonel Montgomery falling from his horse seems branded into your vision. Captain Hayes moves along the line, checking casualties. Your company has been lucky. Only 3 dead, a dozen wounded. Others fared worse. The company to your right lost over half its men. "Get water and ammunition," the captain orders. "This isn't over." He's right. In the distance, Confederate artillery still fires occasionally. Their infantry has retreated, but they're regrouping beyond the creek. This was just one engagement in what might be days of battle. The wounded are carried to the rear, where field hospitals have been established in farmhouses and barns. The dead are laid in rows, awaiting burial details. You help carry one of your company, a man named Ellis, who you barely knew, placing him gently beside others in blue uniforms. Hours pass in a strange blur. You help distribute ammunition, carry water to the artillery crews, build hasty breastworks along the ridge using fence rails and dirt, anything to stay busy to avoid thinking about what just happened, what might happen next. Late afternoon finds you sitting with Wilkins and William in the shelter of a stone wall. You're eating salt pork and hardtack, though none of you has much appetite. The food sticks in your throat, but you force it down, knowing you need strength. "I never fired a gun at a living thing before today," William says quietly. "Not even a rabbit?" Wilkins nods. "I kept imagining they were targets, like at drill." He pauses. "Except targets don't scream when they fall." You say nothing. What is there to say? You're all trying to process experiences that have no frame of reference in normal life. You boys made it then. Sergeant Reeves appears beside your wall, dismounting from his horse with fluid grace. His uniform is dusty, and there's a bandage around his left forearm, but he seems otherwise intact. "Your first taste of it," he says, sitting heavily beside you. Not a question. "Is it always like that?" you manage to ask. Reeves shakes his head. "No, sometimes it's worse." He accepts a drink from your canteen. "You held the line. That's what matters." "We killed them," William says, voice hollow. "We just killed them." "They were trying to kill you too," Reeves replies, not unkindly. "That's war." A shout from the ridge interrupts whatever else he might have said. Officers are calling men back to positions. In the distance, movement in the Confederate lines suggests another attack may be forming. "Back to it," Reeves says, standing. "Remember what I told you. Focus on the immediate. Load, aim, fire. The rest is..." He gestures vaguely. "The rest comes later. The expected Confederate attack doesn't materialize before darkness falls. Instead, both armies settle into an uneasy nighttime vigilance. Your regiment remains in position on the ridge, half the men awake at any time while others catch what sleep they can. You're among the first watch, standing in the darkness, rifle ready, staring toward where you know the Confederate lines must be, though you can see nothing. Occasionally, a flare illuminates the landscape, casting eerie shadows, or artillery fires blindly into the night. The strangest thing is the sound. Not battle noise now, but the moans and cries of wounded men still lying on the field between the lines. Men too badly hurt to crawl to safety, or caught in the no man's land where neither side can safely retrieve them. "Someone should help them," you whisper to no one in particular. "Can't," responds a veteran nearby. "Anybody goes out there gets shot. They'll send parties under white flags at dawn maybe, if both sides agree." The thought of wounded men lying all night in the darkness is almost worse than the battle itself. Some call for water, others for their mothers. Many just moan, a sound that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere in the darkness. When your watch ends at midnight, you find no rest in sleep. Nightmares jolt you awake repeatedly. Images of men running toward you with bayonets, of Colonel Montgomery falling, of faces you don't know staring with dead eyes. Dawn comes grey and misty. The valley below the ridge is shrouded in fog, obscuring whatever movement might be happening in the Confederate lines. The field of yesterday's battle is now fully visible, a landscape of discarded equipment, shell holes, and bodies. So many bodies. During the night, many of the wounded manage to crawl to one side or the other, but dozens remain, some moving weakly, others ominously still. Captain Hayes gathers your company. His face is haggard, eyes red from lack of sleep. "We're being relieved," he announced.